All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some truly fascinating insights from our source material on exactly how parents and mentors shape the spiritual lives of the next generation. If you're exploring how a resilient worldview is passed down to children, this breakdown offers some incredibly compelling insights. Now, our source material kicks things off with a pretty blunt question, and actually a candid apology on behalf of modern faith communities. They point out what they view as a massive cultural mistake. For years, the argument goes, we've kind of bought into this idea that we can just drop our kids off at a youth group or Sunday school and expect those programs to do all the heavy lifting of moral and spiritual instruction. But as the source outlines, that is just not how it actually works. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll hit the faith outsourcing trap, modeling the parental role, building daily faith habits, parenting with true authenticity, and finally, the long-term vision. Kicking off with Section 1, the faith outsourcing trap. Where does faith instruction actually belong? The source makes a really compelling distinction here between where faith is confirmed versus where it is actually formed. They argue that the absolute primary place for instruction is meant to be at home. Think of it this way. When teenagers go to youth group or listen to a speaker, that isn't the foundation of their beliefs. That is just the confirmation of what they've already been taught in private. Hearing it from an outside voice simply makes the lessons you're already teaching at home feel concrete. So the big takeaway? Children aren't just looking for structured lessons. They're looking at you. They are reading the adults in their lives as living, breathing examples. When parents outsource that instruction entirely to programs, the source warns that they completely miss out on their role as the primary model. I mean, kids don't just absorb what they're told to believe, right? They absorb how you handle a real-life crisis, how you make tough decisions, and exactly how you act when the pressure is really on. Which leads us right into Section 2, modeling the parental role. The concept here is that you are the primary curriculum. Because fundamentally, you cannot share what you don't have. Take this ancient foundational prayer, known in Judaism as the Shema. What's wild is that it actually starts with adults instructing themselves. Before the text ever mentions teaching children, it says these commandments need to be on the parent's heart first. It's all about getting your own heart right. The idea is that if your own cup isn't full, you literally cannot pour into the next generation. It all starts with genuine personal obedience. The source uses this incredible phrase, be the Bible, because your family and community, who might not understand complex theology, are reading your actions every single day. The speaker in our source actually shares a super vulnerable story about this. When he first started speaking publicly, he would stutter heavily, not because he lacked confidence, but out of this deep, overwhelming reverence. He desperately wanted his life to reflect his words. So even if you feel completely unqualified, the argument here is that what matters most is your kids seeing your beliefs play out through honest, real-life action. And this Deuteronomy Daily Walk totally reframes things. It outlines faith not as some isolated Sunday event, but as the constant background music of your entire day. We aren't talking about sitting at a table and rigorously testing your kids on what they learned. It's about weaving life lessons into completely ordinary moments. When you sit down for dinner, when you're traveling, when you go to sleep, and when you wake up. Let's dive into Section 3, building daily faith habits. These are the practical ways to actually weave faith into everyday life. Our source adapts those ancient instructions for today with something they call the car ride rule. Honestly, it sounds almost too simple. The idea is to just create a totally pressure-free environment by driving in silence. You just get in the car, drive, and stay quiet with your teenager until they feel safe enough to organically start sharing. If you've been transparent with them about your own struggles, they will likely share theirs, not because you have all the answers, but just because the environment feels safe. Here's another brilliant micro-habit from the source material, the group text method. The speaker shares how his wife just started texting, "Good morning, have a great day," and "Good night, I love you," in their family group chat with their teenage boys. And guess what? The boys started responding. That tiny habit sparked all these deeper, one-on-one side conversations. The speaker joked that he quickly realized he needed to get in on that chat too. It's a tiny, effortless habit, but it opens the door for massive influence. The speaker also reflects on this beautiful cultural habit in his family called the doorway blessing. When kids are leaving or entering the house, they ask for a blessing, saying bendición, and the parent responds, "May God be with you."
He notes that when you stop to pray specifically for your child by name at the door, thanking God for them and acknowledging the exact burdens they're carrying that day, that simple 30-second moment reaches a place in a child's heart that an hour-long service just cannot touch.
Moving on to Section 4, parenting with true authenticity, sincerity over perfection. Because let's face it, parents are inevitably going to mess up. The biblical text of Ephesians warns parents not to exasperate their children, or as some translations say, not to bring them to rage. According to the source, this happens when faith is weaponized to win arguments, rather than offered in love. It happens when we demand strict obedience without taking the time to build a real relationship, or when we apply standards harshly, especially standards that we ourselves are hypocritically failing to meet. But here is the ultimate takeaway. I got that wrong, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? Those 3 simple sentences will do far more for your child's faith than stubbornly trying to maintain the illusion that you're perfect. We often assume adults have to have it all together all the time, right? But the source describes admitting faults to your kids and actually asking for their forgiveness as profoundly impactful. Authentic brokenness will always beat faking perfection. Kids do not need a flawless parent. When you own up to a stumble, maybe a bad word slips out or you unfairly pass judgment, you are showing your children what repentance actually looks like in real time. The source highlights that this teaches them the most vital lesson of all. It shows them that when they inevitably fail in their own lives, they don't have to hide. They know exactly how to get back up and return to their faith, all because they watched you do it first. Finally, let's look at Section 5, the long-term vision, the generational impact of your daily habits. The source highlights Proverbs 22:6 to argue that the faith you're passing down isn't just some polished Sunday morning version. It needs to be a gritty, resilient worldview built to hold up during life's darkest moments. The belief is that when children hit rock bottom later in life, they're going to desperately cling to the authentic faith that you poured into them. Just look at this generational faith cycle. It shows how your daily obedience at home extends way beyond your immediate children. When you model that authentic, messy, real-life faith today, you might not fully grasp the impact. But 20, 30, or 40 years down the line, when they are raising their own families, that foundation you are building right now will be exactly what the next generation stands on. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a quick story the speaker shared. He mentioned running into a 19-year-old kid at the local supermarket, just a kid he's seen around town, and the young man simply gave him a nod of recognition. It's such a small passing moment, but it is a powerful reminder of this core message. You are forming people who will exist in this world for the rest of their lives. So the source leaves us with one incredibly challenging, provocative question. Think about it. Who are you raising up today?